with you yourself, at what point did you start hustling?
I started hustling around, maybe like around 87, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
How old at the time?
Man, I had to do the math. I don't know, I was about 15, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, and what did it start with?
It started with weed. I was out there with Bammer weed, man. It was, brown sacks. The chronic didn't hit yet. We was out there with Bammer sacks,
Bammer,
man.
with the brown.
Buy a little quarter ounce of Bammer for maybe like $50, and you break it down to maybe 10 sacks and get out there selling them for $10 a sack, and you double up on it. You know what I mean? And go do it again till you get up to an ounce, and and so forth and so on. Yes, sir.
Okay, but at one point it started escalating to other things.
Yeah, we started graduating to crack. Yeah, and I say the crack thing, I say around like, say 86, 87, we started off with the weed. 87, around 87, towards the end of 87, going into 88, we started getting to learning how to rock up dope. You seeing other dudes out there, getting their money on, youngsters my age. One of my partners who was one of the first out there, I see him really getting money, you know what I mean? And I was just like, man, I got to get it like him. This weed ain't working. You know what I mean? That crack was just that fast money. The clientele was just coming so quick. So back then when I first got into it, we used to have to go to 3rd Street to the record shop and used to have to get little shaker bottles. You used to have to rock it up yourself. You know what I mean?
Okay, but when you move from the weed to the crack, that's when things get more treacherous.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Weed is sort of easy going. People aren't really killing each other over weed and robbing each other. I mean, to a certain degree, but not like the cocaine game.
Right. Now, weed was laid back. You out there kicking it with your homies, laid back. You ain't have to worry about nobody burning off on you. Once you start selling crack, you dealing with dude, they got problems. You're dealing with dope fiends who really got addictions, and they willing to do whatever if they can't get that hit. So you up in the car, they slapping your hand, dropping your dope, all in the car, burning off, shootings, people running up to the top, catching them. And I mean, it got crazy with the crack, you know what I mean? It's a different type of clientele. Plus you dealing with other people, who might try to rob you for it too. You know what I mean? Whether it's dudes who trying to come up on the money, or it's just, dope fiends or crackheads, whatever you want to call them, trying to get that hit. So you definitely had a different type of clientele that you had to worry about, different issues.
Well, you mentioned around 87, 88. That's when the turf war kind of started.
Exactly.
Between Hunters Point, Fillmore, and Sunnydale.
Right.
And I guess it started over girls?
You could say that, yeah. You could say it was behind, that was probably the issue, but it'd be stuff that just been boiling over. So like some of the dudes from Sunnydale used to live in Hunters Point. Some dudes from Hunters Point lived in Sunnydale. Like I stayed in Sunnydale from like 81. I mean, when they rebuilt Harbor, we moved over there from like 80 to 81, almost 82. And then we moved back in and got our houses back. So we went over there, and when we moved over there, it was hell for me over there. I'm fighting every day. Sunnydale dudes tripping, because they was a tight-knit community too. So you come in, you's an outsider. And, I learned how to fight over there in Sunnydale. I went through problems. So once I moved back, it's dudes who I know and familiar with. So once the drama kicked off, it was like, I became one of the main targets, and certain dudes over there became main targets to me. You know what I mean? Because I was around them, fighting them and going through things. And it was like that all over. It was a bunch of dudes that moved from Hunters Point to Sunnydale.
Well, and I guess when the movie Colors came out, that's when things started sort of change.
Yeah.
And I remember, I interviewed Leon, one of the actors from that movie, and we talked about kind of the significance of that film, because up until then, if you weren't from LA, you never heard of Crips and Bloods. No, and you never really saw sort of like the black gangs really on the big screen like that.
Right.
In terms of the organized gangs and so forth. And that actually had a big effect.
Right, you heard about it, but you never really saw it. You know, we had a bunch of dudes who was back and forth too, had family and friends in LA, stayed up on Harbor, they kind of come back telling stories, about, Crenshaw, how Crenshaw was, and, people hang out with cars and this and that, and Bloods and Crips, dudes banging over Colors. And Colors kind of let you see it, gave you that inside look, like, oh, okay, yeah, they really with it out there. And we got influenced by that, because like I said, it was a little bit of beef, it was a little bit of friction, but when Colors came out, everybody wanted to be like the Crips and Bloods. So, it went from fighting and house parties and all that to now we outside with guns, really trying to take your head off.
Right. Even though that the Crips and Bloods never really made it to the Bay like that.
Nah, it was a couple. Like they had Potrero Hill, had some, Valencia Gardens.
But not
It never
like the
made it to where it was
neighborhoods.
gonna go to Fillmore, Hunters Point, or Sunnydale like that. But you had dudes that moved out there, was trying to do their thing, but we just wasn't going for it. It wasn't happening up there. We was more like turf hogs. You know, we rep blocks.